Hey there, welcome. This is my Christmas and August card class. If you purchase this class, I'm going to show you how to make all the cards here. If you want the PDF and measurements and all of those good things, those were provided and emailed out to the people who actually purchased the class. If you're watching this on YouTube and you were wishing that maybe you got the class, I'm sorry, it is over now. It's no longer available, but maybe you could make some of these cards with some of the supplies I've listed below. Okay, this card is just an 8.5 by 5.5 card base, scored at 4 1/4 and folded in half. And then I've got Regal's Designer Series paper is what I used for all the different cards that I made. And these are 1.5-inch circle punches. So I've just done a 1.5-inch circle punch out of the different colors and patterns. So the card on the left is Real Red and Old Olive. This card is Garden Green and Cherry Cobbler. So you can see you can get a different look based on whatever colors you choose to use. And then they're all just double-sided. So I just kind of arranged them all how I wanted them, flipped them around here and there, and put them in a pattern that I thought was fun, and then began using snail adhesive to glue them down. You can see here I ran out of snail adhesive and I had to replace it. So that happens now and again. If you need refills, you can purchase them from me. Again, link below the video. And then I'm just going around and going to adhere each one of these down. So I am going to be doing 2 classes per month. So sometimes the class will be not live, I'm sorry. Sometimes the class video will be on YouTube, sometimes it won't. But I decided that this one I would go ahead and put on YouTube so that I could share ideas. And also I wanted you to see what one of my class videos would look like. It has lots and lots of cards. So there's 6 Christmas cards here that we're going to complete. And one of them I actually did live on Facebook, so you won't see that one here. It was emailed in a link to the folks that purchased the class, but that was a live one. Anyway, yeah, so 6 Christmas cards. I love doing a Christmas in August or a Christmas in July card class because I know for myself, I always have to get a pretty big jump on Christmas card making. Christmas card making for me tends to, let's see, how do I say this? I never have enough of them. I never have enough Christmas cards. So I start in July or August, and by the time Christmas comes, usually I've got enough. But I learned the first few years I was making Christmas cards that waiting until like November to start my Christmas cards was futile. It never worked. People always ended up without cards. So I start my Christmas cards really early because of that. Anyway, this class included a full pack of 6x6 Designer Series Regal's paper. It also included a full spool of Real Red ribbon, which paired wonderfully with all of these cards. You could add the ribbon anywhere you wanted, and then of course you have it for gift packaging or other projects that you want to do. And then there were optional add-ons. You could add on the Lots of Cheer stamp set, or you could add on the Merry Christmas to All. Sorry. And Merry Christmas to All stamp set is, both of these stamp sets actually are in the annual catalog. They're not holiday stamp sets, but they're super cute. And I feel like a lot of our annual catalog Christmas stuff kind of gets missed because we're all just waiting for the holiday catalog and we don't realize that there's already these fantastic things out there. So on this one, I added the Real Red ribbon. I didn't want to add that to the other one because I'm going to add some Cherry Cobbler ribbon. So it matches those circle punches. All right, so the next card up is cut at a different size. It's cut at 5.5 by 7.5, scored at 4 1/4, and so it makes this kind of little funny fold card. I've got some old olive cardstock here. or not cardstock, I'm sorry, designer paper. It's cut at 1 inch by 5.5. And I'm going to layer it down on the inside of the card on the very edge so that when you close the card, you have this little Peekaboo designer series paper sticking out. Then we are going to do some pattern stamping, which is really fun, and it's something that I feel like I don't do enough of. I'm really bad about it. And then when I see it done, I think, why don't I do that more often? So we're going to use Old Olive Stampin' Ink, and we are going to pattern stamp right onto the front of this card. Now, one of the things that you could do to avoid getting any spillover and getting the ornament onto the back of the card would be to mask off or tape off part of that. But I went ahead and just risked it and felt like pretty confident that I could just keep it all in the front area of the card like I was intending to. So I'm just using Old Olive ink and re-stamping this ornament over and over, and you can see I just offset it, and that's really important. You don't want to line it up. You kind of want to offset so that it looks like a pattern. Okay, for some reason my phone, when I was doing all my recording, cut off the very end of this video, or this portion of the video, and I had to restart it. But this is what the finished card looks like, and the folks that signed up for the class got those punches that are on the front there. It's a 1.5 inch circle punch and the story label punch punched in Old Olive. So that's part of their kit. Okay, next card up. This one's cut at 8.5 by 5.5, folded in half to make an A2 size card. I'm using Memento Tuxedo black ink to ink up the wreath from the Lots of Cheer stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it down, and then we are going to color it. And we're also going to do some other fun stuff. So right now I'm going to go ahead and fix up the card base. So I've got strips here of Old Olive and Real Red, and I'm just going to use my bone folder to give them a little curly cue. FYI, if you ever want to curl paper, this is a great way to do it. You just take your bone folder, run it along there with your thumb pushed up against the paper and pushing it into the bone folder, and you can get some really fun curly ribbon. Great for making wreaths and other fun things. I'm taking my paper snips and trimming the very ends of the paper where it's curled up into a little kind of ribbon end. You might be thinking, why wouldn't you do the curly cue part after doing this part? Because it's really easy to tear off one of your little points. So I recommend to first do your curly cue, then snip your end. Okay, just a little word of wisdom there for you. All right, so then we're gonna lay this guy down, and you can see I've left it so that the little curly cue end sticks up just a little bit. So I'm running my adhesive all the way down, almost to the very end, but not quite, and then pressing it down, and it leaves the little sticker upper there at the end. Seems like a professional word to use. And then we've got the gingham print. Can we just talk about how much we love gingham prints? They're my fave. I love them so much. They're so cute. Okay, so we're going to move on to coloring. I decided to keep the coloring super simple, and I'm using Mango Melody Stampin' Blends to color all of the bells. I want the bells to look gold, and Mango Melody was the closest color I could get to a gold bell. Now, I did not, just so you know, I did not choose to do any shading on these bells. I just simply colored them. It's totally fine to get the Stampin' Blends and not blend. It's completely 100% acceptable to purchase Stampin' Blends and just simply color with them with no like crazy techniques or anything. It's totally fine. You can do that. And so that's what I'm doing here, and as you can see, it's turning out fantastic. And then I'm going to color my bow with real red Stampin' Blends so that it'll match the designer series paper that's on the card. So one of the things that inspired me to do this class was all of a sudden I realized that the holiday catalog was soon upon us, but I also realized that you couldn't purchase any of the items out of there until September 4th unless you are a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. So I did do a little shading on the bow, FYI. So I'm using my dark real red right here, and then I'll go in with my light. The other thing you could do for this bow is you could stamp it a second time and you could fussy cut it out and then pop it up on the wreath. So that's another fun technique or thing that you could do. And you might notice here I don't go all the way to the edge until the very end so that I can maintain a little bit of lighter color on the very, very end of the bow. And if you do that, you will have more shading. It's almost like giving yourself a third shade. The more times you cover a piece of cardstock with a Stampin' Blends, the darker it gets. So it doesn't matter if you're using the lightest blend, and this is the case for all alcohol markers, they layer. So it doesn't matter if you're using the lightest blend, if you keep going over something again and again and again, it's still going to get darker. So anytime I'm shading, I try to leave the area that I want the lightest untouched until the very end of the coloring, and then I go over it one time. And then the part that's in the middle gets a little bit darker because I've already gone over it once. And I have no idea if that makes any kind of sense to you at all because it's a little difficult to explain. Okay, so I'm going to fussy cut out this wreath, which, you know, takes a while, but I want to give you a tip. When you are fussy cutting, the best thing you can do is take the scissors and put them in whatever your dominant hand is. So for me, that's my right hand. Hold them as still as possible and move the paper with the other hand. This will give you much, much cleaner lines when you're fussy cutting. Now you can visibly see that my right hand is moving a little bit, but my left hand is really doing most of the work. And you can't totally tell because it's a slow movement. But I promise you, when you do this, if you will be very, very careful to move mostly your left hand or your right, depending on whichever one's dominant, but keep the scissors more still and move the paper around, you will have better fussy cutting. So that is a little tip for you. So I'm cutting out the center of this wreath. Now, some people are going to say, why didn't you just use a razor? Because they have those really cool like X-Acto knife things and you can put them down on a self-healing mat and you could cut all around this. The reason I don't use that is because I'm horrible at it. I've not used it very often. I tend to slip and things tend to not get cut the way they should. And so for me, it was just easier to wedge in here and attempt to do this with paper snips. And I think I did a pretty darn good job. Now you can see that there's a white edge around the inside and outside of the wreath. I wanted that. That's intentional. Sometimes when you use die cuts, they die cut and they leave a little white edge. Other times you die cut and it cuts it right up against the project or the item. I like the little white edge, so I left a little white edge. So now we're just going to do the stamping and then we will pop this up. So I'm using the Merry Christmas to All stamp set, and this is going to say Christmas Blessings. So I'm stamping the blessings part first so I can make sure I get it down there right on top of those little pieces of DSP, and then the Christmas second. So now we've got this stacked Christmas Blessings, and then we're going to add our wreath using Stampin' Dimensionals. Okay, so the next card is really, really fun, really simple. All these cards are simple. as you can see, there's not a single card that I've made that's super difficult. They're all fairly simple cards. I really encourage you, especially when you're making Christmas cards, this is what I do. 95% of my Christmas cards are really simple. 5% are really fancy and I put a ton of effort into. And the people in my life that I'm really close to, that I know for a fact save my cards and that, like, you know, are my people, they get the fancy cards. Everybody else gets the simple cards because I can't bear the thoughts of spending 2 or 3 hours on a card and then having somebody throw it in the garbage. That makes me cringe. But on a simple card, if I've spent, 10 minutes on it, cut a bunch of stuff and then spent 10 minutes assembling, I can bear that. That's tolerable. I know it's horrible, but it's the truth. Okay, so I used cherry cobbler ink to stamp the sentiment that you see there, and that's from the Merry Christmas to All. And then I've inked up the very bottom of this little snowman because all I want is his little present at the bottom. I don't want the rest of him. So I inked it up in Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'm going to use the light smoky slate marker to give some shading to this gift. So we're shading just underneath the bow on the left side and underneath the lid of the box. I want this gift to appear white, like it's white paper. And then the bow is going to be in cherry cobbler ink. So I'm coloring it with Stampin' Blends and coloring with cherry cobbler, and it will be a very beautiful finished bow. Okay, so, and then we're going to fussy cut it out. So this is just a really fun way for you to see how you can get extra mileage out of a stamp set. So this stamp set obviously is not just a Christmas present, but when I'm done with it, you will think that it was just a Christmas present. You'll have no idea that it was attached to a snowman at some point. So I think that that's fun, and it's always like kind of a challenge to me to look at a stamp set and figure out ways that I can repurpose certain parts of it to make it a little bit different or make it stretch and go further. So that's what I've done here with this image. All right, so yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any like stories to tell you guys. There are always stories. Well, I'll tell you one. So we have where I live. Oh, by the way, let me tell you the measurements here. The measurements for this card are the 8.5 by 5.5 card base, obviously. And then you've got the, let me find it. The designer series paper is cut at 4 by 4. This piece of designer series paper is cut at 2 by 5.25. And then a piece of Whisper White cardstock that we stamped the sentiment on is at 3.5 by 3.5. Okay. So I live in a really small town of 1,000 people, and we have these 2 peahens, which are female peacocks, who have been roaming around our town for several months now. They hang out together and they show up randomly at different people's houses, and we have a little Plymouth Facebook group where people post pictures of them and say, hey, Laverne and Shirley stopped by. So they've been named Laverne and Shirley, and they stop by and they hang out at different people's homes. Well, it's like really exciting if they show up at your house. So after church on Sunday, I was changing out of my church clothes and into some pajama type clothes to just relax around the house when I hear Macy say, my daughter, Mom, Laverne and Shirley are here. Laverne and Shirley are here. And I freak out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get a picture of them to post it in our Plymouth group. So she goes, hurry, they're going to leave. Hurry, they're going to leave. Because by this point, our dog, Truvy, has gotten out of the house. So I take off running, throwing my shirt on as I'm running, no bottoms, just underwear, no bottoms, throwing the shirt on, with my phone in hand, running out of the house to try to get pictures of peahens. And I suddenly realize I'm in my underwear. Thank God we live really rural and there's just not a lot of people around. So nobody saw me in my underwear, at least not that I'm aware of. But hysterical that I am so desperate to get pictures of the peahens that I literally left my home in nothing but a t-shirt and underwear. And let me tell you, people, that's a sight. So I'm sure that Laverne and Shirley are never going to come back because of what they had to see. They were probably like, dear God, what is wrong with these people? They run out of their home nude. I mean, it's like paparazzi when you see them. Like, you just have to like run and at any cost, you've got to get the photo. And so I got back in the house and I posted the photo on Facebook and got my pants on. So nobody has to be concerned about that. And when I got the, posted the picture, a lot of people were like, oh, I'm so happy you posted a photo of them because no one's seen them in a while. So people were worrying that maybe they got killed or maybe they, were injured or whatever. Okay, so that's that card. You guys saw that one. Really, really, really cute. Love that card. So we're going to move on to the next one here. We've got a card base at 8.5 by 5.5, folded in half to make an A2 size card. And then we need some designer series paper. We've got a piece of real red designer series paper cut at 3 by 5.25, and I'm going to layer that down. This might be cherry cobbler, actually. You can use whichever you want. Real red, cherry cobbler. It's all in the Regal's designer series paper pack, which is what I'm focusing on. So really, all of these designer series papers are interchangeable. You can use any color you want. And then I've got a piece of 3 by 4 Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to do my stamping. I want to stamp my little snowman in Memento Tuxedo black ink, and then I'm going to color him in to make him super adorable to go on the front of this card. Anyway, back to the peahens. So they are living to tell another story another day because they were here and they moseyed right on their way. We did go back outside and throw some raspberries to them, and they ate a few of those, and then they were out of here. They were over us. This little happiest Christmas wishes image is from the Lots of Cheer stamp set. So we're going back here to coloring. This is I think this is the dark smoky slate marker so that I could have a nice little gray hat for this feller. And then we've got not garden green, good grief. I think this is Granny Apple Green Stampin' Blends, and I'm going to color his scarf completely with Granny Apple Green. Instead of making it two-toned or anything like that, I just decided I was going to go ahead and color the whole scarf one solid color, which turns out to look just fine. And anyway, so that's the story with the peahens and me running out of my house with no pants on. That was lovely. While I'm coloring, because you guys have seen me color a million times, I'm going to quickly fill you in on just a couple more things. I have another card class releasing called Will Walrus Need a Card Class? And we're going to be using the Will Walrus Be Friends stamp set, which is the hardest name of a stamp set ever on the planet Earth to say, but it's also like the cutest name of a stamp set ever in the whole world. So whatever, I'm good with it because I can just struggle through saying the name of the stamp set, and it's got a cute name. So if you guys are interested in purchasing that card class, I will link to it below this video and you can sign up for that card class. I would love to have you join me. I think that one will be an exclusive video. I don't think I will be posting the video online like I have with this one. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I'm thinking right now. I just have decided that sharing my video can help you all see what it could be like to attend a class. And I also added a little free gift to everybody's class that purchased the Christmas in August card class. They got a free little gift. So I just try to make my card class special and fun, and like we're just hanging out making cards together, because that's what I really wish I could be doing with everybody who takes my class. I wish that I had a way to just teleport everybody to me, or me to them, and hold card classes. Wouldn't that be fun? But I don't. So this is my way of reaching the masses, is being able to post videos on YouTube, and you guys can take classes, and then I can record a video for you, and it's kind of like we're hanging out. And look at this, is what I forgot to do on the other card. So you add your ribbon underneath, and this is the card that I made on Facebook. So this card, super simple, and all the measurements are on the PDF that's provided with the class. So if you are not sure about the measurements, just like this very last one, don't fret. If you bought the class, then that means you have the PDF with all the measurements spelled out for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this class. I hope you guys sign up for one in the future, and I'll check you next time. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.